One thing I want to talk about now is a story that was brought to me by a guy called Johnny Ball, who is not very well at the moment. He's recovering from COVID, I think, and I want to thank him for getting in touch about this, because this is just absolutely ridiculous, because we know that the Remembrance Sunday is this Sunday, and there are various people who, of course, want to get there, including our very, very brave veterans, and Liz McConaghy is one of them. I'm delighted that she is on the line now. She is someone who has written about her experience in the army. Also, she's been to Iraq and Afghanistan, she's been on Chinooks and so on, but even with her logistical and brilliant flying abilities and experience, she's going to find it difficult to get to London on Sunday. Liz, you're very welcome to the programme. What on earth is going on?
Hi, good afternoon, Peter, and thanks for having me. Well, I, like I say, intended to travel to London this Sunday for the Remembrance Parade. I went last year for the first time and intended to go again because I had such a great experience last year.
And where would you be coming from, Liz? And I can tell you're from my part of the world, but where do you live now?
Yeah, and sadly I don't have a Chinook to get me there. So now I'd be travelling from Basingstoke from the western side of London. And it was only by pure chance that I looked online on Sunday when I was sat planning my trip for next week, because I got a couple of friends who are going to come and join me and we were going to travel in together. And I looked by chance to see what time we would need to set off at, and the quickest journey was going to be 2 hours and 20 minutes, which is a lot longer than normal. Usually it's about 45 minutes into London from here. So I couldn't really understand what was going on. I looked a bit deeper and realised that there was planned rail strikes and there was bus replacement services. And
the three most feared words in the English language: bus replacement service.
Yes, especially at 6:20 in the morning. So the earliest I could travel was going to be leaving here at 6:20 to get me to Horse Guards at 8:45. Well, to get me to Waterloo at 8:45, which even to get up to Horse Guards. And I think that's the main issue here, is that the parade, it starts early. We have to be there on time. This is the whole part of a military procession, is getting there on time, because you can't just filter in as and when you want to.
Of course, it is at a particular time, and that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah, and so some veterans, this has exposed the point where some veterans won't even be able to travel on those bus replacement services to get them there in time. So they have absolutely no option of getting there. And secondly, the bus replacement services will just not cater for the amount of veterans that want to travel on this day.
You would think, wouldn't you, given that this happens every year, that the trains and the train companies would think, right, hold on a second, there's a lot of people from right around the country who want to get to London. They've served our country with great bravery and distinction. Let's not lay off the trains. I've got a statement here from Network Rail that's come in the last few minutes. A spokesperson says, we're never allowed to know whether they're male or female, there is never a good time to close parts of the network. Yeah, no truck with you there. There's never a good time to close parts of the network, but work to maintain and upgrade the railway is vital to ensure the safe running of the railway for the millions of people who use it every day. We try to keep disruption to a minimum, and Sundays are the quietest day of the week for travel. There will be replacement buses on offer, and trains are being diverted to ensure that passengers wanting to get to London can do so. We would remind passengers to check before they travel when planning their journeys. I mean, that's just nonsense. There's no apology to our veterans. There's no thought that actually maybe this Sunday might not be a good time to do it. Listen, I travel a little bit by train, and I know that there are changes and diversions all the time, but I mean, you would imagine, given that this is an annual event, and there are a lot of people who are not perhaps in the best of health, maybe elderly people, maybe people who have injuries, seen or unseen. There are so many people who want to get there, Liz, like you. So what are you going to do you think?
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head. That's my main point, is that, this weekend doesn't change every year in terms of date. It is the same date every year. It has been since Armistice came in 1919. So it's their planning process that is flawed if they haven't MB'd that this weekend is Remembrance Weekend. And I think, they also told me whenever I brought it to the point with them that it was for safety reasons. So I also don't understand, if it's for safety reasons that are so important, why they couldn't have either done it the days running up to that, yes, or the days the following week. There are 4 weekends in November to pick, and they have chosen to pick this weekend. But you're right, it's the elderly and the older veterans that I'm more concerned about. I can get my way to London if I need to, but there are many veterans out there, and I'd say the majority of veterans that travel to Remembrance Sunday in London are that older generation who have not only fought for our country but have watched fallen comrades, and that is where they're going to commemorate those fallen comrades. And the one day of the year that they're able to go and do that, and they're also able to reconnect with other veterans who have been through the same thing, which is where the biggest bonds come from.
Of course.
That older veteran community who are not as mobile as me, who maybe cannot drive, and certainly a lot of the younger veteran community who are also immobile due to injuries from things like Afghanistan and the Falklands. They're not going to be able to get there themselves now. So essentially, they've taken the one day away from us that we're given a year.
It's utterly ridiculous. Just speaking of what's happening this weekend, Liz, what are your thoughts on the thoughts of other veterans you've been speaking of and speaking to in terms of the day before, the Saturday and the pro-Palestinian march? What are your thoughts on that being on Remembrance Weekend, both Armistice Day and affecting Armistice Day, but of course the day before Remembrance Sunday as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obviously playing on people's minds a lot. I think veterans as a whole are a very tight-knit community, and we will, do our best to get there. I think that can be said for all the veteran community. However, I do know that there's 5 underground lines that are also not working this weekend. So again, that reduces the ability for people to be able to get there, even on the Saturday, to pay the respects on the 11th at the 11th hour. So I think, it's going to be interesting. The veteran community, again, are also very upstanding in terms of how they conduct themselves in public. So I think that they will not want to start anything. They will just want to pay their respects, because that is what this weekend is about. It's not for them. It's not about protesting. It's about paying their respects.
Absolutely. And you're personally a very tough customer, Liz. You've been through a lot of very scary things. But do you think veterans, and perhaps you yourself, are you apprehensive about going into London this weekend?
Yeah, I think there's no two ways about it. If you're going to be leaving the Cenotaph March and heading back home after the march has actually taken place, I think that's probably where most people, certainly my main concerns lie. It's not initially we'll all travel in together, but it's actually when you're finding your way home at the end of the day. I think, with your medals on your chest, which we're all extremely proud to wear, but it does absolutely single you out as someone who served.
Of course. And tell us about those medals. Well, what did you win them for? Because you have a fascinating story, as you call yourself the Chinook chick.
Yeah, so I joined on my 19th birthday and went into the Air Force, actually not the Army, and worked on Chinook helicopters for my entire career as a crewman. So my job was the shop floor, down the back, the office space, I guess, as you want to call it, on the back of a Chinook. And part of that, it meant that I deployed to Iraq twice in the early days in 2004, and then off to Afghanistan in 2005, and did 10 deployments to Afghanistan by the end as part of OPERIC, which is not unique for a lot of the Chinook force. We were there as a constant heartbeat throughout the whole of that campaign, and that meant that we, as the crews, just had to keep manning that aircraft. So yeah, 10 deployments in the end to Afghanistan, and certainly, although I won medal for that entire campaign, it doesn't really signify and I guess, really showcase exactly what you did when you were there. And the proudest moment of me being there was the MERT, which was the Medical Emergency Response Team. So a lot of those, fallen comrades that we're remembering on Sunday are the ones that took their last breath in the back of my aircraft. So it's an extremely emotional day for me, as it will be for many. And there'll be a lot of veterans there who we picked up on the back of our aircraft, who were part of the medevac casualties, who will be marching with us.
Incredible story, Liz, and thank you for your service to this country. I think, given that we have about 30 seconds before I've got to go to a break, I think it's about time that you give us a bit of a plug for your book, Liz.
Oh, thank you. No, it came out last year. It's called Chinook Crew Chick, and it very much details my career in the Air Force, my 17 years in the Air Force. But I struggled massively whenever I left with my mental health and took an overdose in 2020. And this is about recovery from that. PTSD is a chapter of my book, certainly, but it's just one chapter. I've gone on to have a very successful career doing public speaking off the back of that. So I think, if anyone wants to read it, it's not your average war book and it's this one time at war and pull up a sandbag. There's a lot of mental health kind of lessons and things people can resonate with in there as well.
I think we need to get you into the studio for you to talk more about your book and your experiences. Let's do that in the next few weeks. Liz, thank you so much for your thoughts. Liz McConaghy there, an author and RAF veteran, so you can look up her book as well.